China is a country that fascinates not only because of its ancient culture or unique cuisine, but also due to the way it organizes itself and interacts with the rest of the world. It's impossible to discuss the global economy without mentioning China's impact. Did you know that China is the largest automotive market in the world, with around 30 million cars sold annually? That's more than the United States and Europe combined. But what makes China truly unique are its peculiarities. For instance, despite being a vast country with continental dimensions, China has only one time zone, all following Beijing time. This creates intriguing situations, such as in the far west regions, where the sun sets in the middle of the afternoon during winter. When looking at the map, you'll see that China borders countries like Pakistan. Here's another interesting fact. Crossing the border leads to a drastic time change. While it might be 2 p.m. in China, it could be 11 a.m. in Pakistan. This time difference is a direct reflection of how China has chosen to organize itself internally, ensuring the entire country operates under a single time standard. Now, imagine the impact of this in a country with over 1.4 billion people. This is just the start of China's peculiarities. Another aspect that distinguishes China is its strict control over internal migration. Unlike in the United States, where you can pack up and move to any state or city, in China you need special permission to relocate from one city to another. This system, called hukou, is a way to control urbanization and prevent the collapse of large cities. To move from one region to another, you have to meet specific criteria, like attending a university in the new city, marrying someone who already resides there, or buying property, which is quite a challenge for most of the population. And speaking of challenges, education in China is among the most competitive in the world. Many young Chinese spend their entire childhood and adolescence studying tirelessly to secure a spot in good universities. Did you know there are more Chinese learning English than there are Americans speaking the language? This shows how much the country is investing in educating its population to connect globally. It's no wonder so many musical geniuses, like prodigious pianists, come from there. The piano, for example, is seen as a passport to academic and social success. Another striking characteristic of China is how it plans its cities. Instead of allowing urban growth to happen haphazardly, the government builds planned cities with modern infrastructure, wide avenues, and impeccable transportation systems. Afterward, they open registration for those wishing to move to these new cities. It sounds like something out of a movie, doesn't it? But this is how they ensure that growth is organized and sustainable. And the transportation in China? Oh, that's a spectacle in itself. While countries like the United States still struggle to build high-speed rail lines, China already has over 25,000 miles of tracks connecting the entire country. Chinese trains, besides being fast, are affordable. This makes train travel the preferred choice for the population, especially since many families never developed the habit of traveling by car. After all, not long ago, owning a car in China was a rarity. But China isn't just excelling in transportation or education. The country is leading the global transition to electric cars. In cities like Shanghai, it's much easier and cheaper to own an electric car than a gasoline one. From government incentives to a widespread charging infrastructure, everything is being done to reduce dependence on imported oil. And the Chinese don't miss gasoline cars. For them, the train was the ideal solution even before the popularization of electric cars. You can see that China is unique in many aspects, right? And this is just the beginning. But before we continue, I want to propose something special for you. If you find it fascinating to learn about China and want to understand more about how it functions on the global stage, leave the comment. I want to discover China's secrets. When I see your comment, I'll know you're as curious as I am about this Asian giant, And of course, I'll give your comment a heart as a thank you for following this incredible content. Now that you've left a comment, let's dive even deeper into what makes China such a fascinating country. It's interesting to see how the country balances modernity and tradition. For example, how they handle crises or natural disasters. While in countries like India, floods can lead to massive migrations causing chaos, in China, this is almost non-existent. Why? Because the government controls internal mobility strictly and centrally. Instead of mass migrations, they organize online fundraisers and mobilize the army to solve the problem locally. It's a quick and efficient response to challenges that might take months or years to resolve elsewhere. This centralized approach allows China to achieve extraordinary feats in a short time. For example, when the government decides it wants more infrastructure for electric cars, they simply do it. Currently, China has around 2 million chargers across the country, compared to the 180,000 in the United States. This capacity for mobilization and execution impresses even the most developed countries. But this also comes with a cost. We must not forget that China is not a democracy, meaning many of these decisions are made without directly consulting the population. Another point worth highlighting is the impact of planned urbanization. Cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen are examples of how planning can transform entire regions. These cities not only have state-of-the-art infrastructure, but also highly efficient transport systems like modern subways and high-speed trains. But what's more interesting is how they leverage these cities to attract talent. The government encourages qualified individuals to move to these areas by offering special conditions for those with high education or specific skills. And speaking of transportation systems, China's high-speed trains are truly impressive. They not only connect the country from end to end, but do so with an efficiency that leaves any other country behind. While in Europe, a high-speed train usually reaches 186 mph, Chinese trains travel at 217 mph, and in some cases, even 248 mph. And the best part, ticket prices are extremely affordable. This shows how the Chinese government understands the importance of making transportation a priority accessible to everyone. But China is not just about big cities and fast trains. The country also faces gigantic challenges, especially when it comes to reducing inequalities between regions. While about 350 million Chinese living near the coast have a per capita income comparable to Europeans, over 1 billion Chinese in the country's interior live with an income similar to Nigeria's. This disparity is one of the Chinese government's biggest challenges, which is now focused on bringing more development to these rural regions. And how do they plan to do that? With the same centralized focus they applied to the coast, the government is heavily investing in infrastructure, education, and modernizing rural areas. A practical example is the construction of new planned cities in the interior. These cities, like those on the coast, are designed to attract people with high education and specific skills. This creates a development cycle that over time can help reduce regional inequalities. Besides, China is leading the electric car revolution. In cities like Shanghai, for example, it's almost impossible to park a gasoline car downtown. Most parking lots and blue zones are exclusive to electric vehicles, and even if you manage to find a spot, there's a hefty cost to license a gasoline car. This makes most of the population opt for electric vehicles, further accelerating the country's energy transition. Another cultural factor is how the Chinese view cars. Unlike many Western countries, where a car is considered a symbol of freedom and status, in China, it's seen as a practical necessity. This is because until recently, few Chinese families owned cars. Most travel was done by train, which is still very common today. So when you tell a Chinese person that an electric car has limited range, they don't mind. For them, the train will always be the primary choice for long journeys. Speaking of trains, China continues to expand its high-speed network. Currently, there are over 25,000 miles of tracks crisscrossing the country, with plans to add thousands of miles each year. This not only connects major cities, but also makes it easier and more affordable for people from the interior to travel to more developed areas. It's a strategy that combines efficiency with social inclusion. If you're enjoying this content and want to follow more videos like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Just click the subscription button below. It really helps us out and ensures you don't miss any new content. Plus, every time you subscribe, you motivate us to keep bringing amazing information like this. So, have you subscribed? Great! Let's get back to our topic. Now that you've subscribed to the channel, let's explore more fascinating aspects of China's relationship with the rest of the world and how it's shaping the global future. One point that can't be ignored is China's strategic role in the technology market. Today, the country is a leader in many areas, like artificial intelligence, 5G, and renewable energy. Chinese companies like Huawei and BYD are redefining global standards, and the government invests heavily to ensure the country stays at the technological forefront. It's almost as if China is building its own future, not relying on anyone else. But to understand how China got to this point, it's important to remember that this growth wasn't by chance. Everything is planned. From economic policies to infrastructure investments, the Chinese government has a clear long-term vision. For example, in the renewable energy sector, China not only leads in the production of solar panels and wind turbines, but is also responsible for a large part of the global demand. This shows how the country is thinking about the future, both in terms of sustainability and energy independence. Another example of strategic planning is the Belt and Road Initiative, also known as the New Silk Road. This initiative is a massive infrastructure network connecting China to dozens of countries in Asia, Europe, and Africa. With this, China not only facilitates international trade, but also strengthens its global influence. It's like they're building a new economic map of the world, with China at the center of it all. Speaking of trade, did you know that China is the largest trading partner for many countries, including the United States? Despite political tensions between the two powers, economic interdependence is enormous. Chinese products are in virtually every American home, while US companies rely on the Chinese market to grow. It's a complex relationship, but illustrates how deeply integrated China is into the global economy. Furthermore, China is investing heavily in education and innovation. Chinese universities, such as Tsinghua and Peking University, are among the best in the world. The country also sends thousands of students to study abroad, especially in the United States and Europe. This creates a generation of highly qualified professionals who combine the best of both worlds, Chinese discipline and rigor with Western creativity and flexibility. And we can't forget about China's cultural impact on the world. Whether through its cuisine, cinema, or even social media platforms like TikTok, Chinese influence is everywhere. This soft power is a way for China to connect with the world, showing that the country is not just an economic powerhouse, but also a cultural one. Looking to the future, it's clear that China still has many challenges ahead. Social inequality, the transition to a more sustainable economy, and an aging population are issues the government will have to address. However, if recent history has taught us anything, it's that China has an impressive ability to adapt and overcome obstacles. This makes many experts believe that the country will continue to be a dominant force on the global stage in the coming decades. By the way, an interesting curiosity, many of the innovations being developed in China end up being exported to the rest of the world. For example, Chinese high-speed trains are being adopted in several countries, and the electric car technologies developed there are influencing industries in the West. This shows that China is not just consuming technology, but also creating it. If you've made it this far, you must have realized how fascinating China is and how it plays a crucial role in the global economy. And now, I want to ask for your help to spread this knowledge. Like this video and show YouTube that this content adds value. The more likes, the more people can learn about China and its relationship with the world. So, leave your like right now. Let's explore how China handles its internal challenges and how this reflects on the rest of the world. One of the country's most striking aspects is its form of governance. While many democratic countries face difficulties passing laws or implementing projects, China, with its centralized system, can act quickly. However, this raises questions about the limits of individual freedoms. For example, internet control and mass surveillance are common practices in the country, but at the same time, this approach allows them to implement changes on a scale and speed that other countries simply can't match. Speaking of rapid changes, the Chinese automotive market is a perfect example. While many countries are still discussing regulations for electric vehicles, China is already years ahead. The government not only encourages the use of electric cars, but also creates restrictions for fossil fuel-powered vehicles. This forces the industry to evolve and the population to adopt new technologies. And the impact of this goes far beyond Chinese borders. Companies around the world are being forced to adapt to the demands of the Chinese market, which is accelerating the global transition to more sustainable vehicles. Another impressive point is China's ability to build infrastructure at record speed. An example is the expansion of its high-speed train network. While in many countries, approving a project of this type can take decades, in China, everything happens in a matter of years. This not only improves internal mobility, but also connects poorer regions to economic centers, helping to reduce inequalities. It's a strategy that combines efficiency with inclusion, something other countries can learn from. Speaking of inclusion, it's impossible to ignore the Chinese government's effort to eradicate extreme poverty. In recent years, millions of people have been lifted out of poverty thanks to ambitious government programs. But that doesn't mean all problems have been solved. Inequality remains a major challenge, especially between rural and urban areas. However, the fact that the government is facing these challenges head-on demonstrates the country's commitment to improving the quality of life for its population. Another fascinating aspect is how China is redefining the concept of urbanization. Entire cities are being built from scratch, with modern infrastructure and cutting-edge technology. These cities of the future not only attract investments but also serve as models for the rest of the world. It's as if China is showing that it's possible to grow in a planned and sustainable way, something many developing countries can be inspired by. And we can't forget the environmental impact. China, which for a long time was criticized for its pollution, is now a leader in renewable energy. The country is investing billions of dollars in solar, wind, and hydroelectric projects, showing that it's possible to balance economic growth with sustainability. Of course, there's still much to be done, but the progress is undeniable. On the international scene, China continues to expand its influence through investments in other countries. Whether financing infrastructure projects in Africa or investing in technology in Europe, the country is positioning itself as a strategic partner for nations around the world. This reinforces the idea that China is not just a regional power, but a global player shaping the future of the world economy. And what about China's relationship with the United States? Well, that's one of the most intriguing dynamics of our time. Despite trade and political tensions, the two countries are deeply interdependent. Chinese products still dominate the American market, while many US companies rely on the Chinese market to grow. It's a complex relationship, but illustrates how the world is increasingly connected. Finally, China is an example of how determination, planning, and long-term vision can transform a country. Of course, not everything is perfect, and there are many challenges ahead. But if there's something we can learn from the Chinese, it's the importance of thinking big and acting with focus. And who knows, maybe some of the strategies that worked there could be adapted to other parts of the world. If you've watched up to here, I want to make a special request. Comment now with the phrase, "I'm an explorer of the modern world." When I see your comment, I'll know you're someone curious and willing to learn more about the world around you. And of course, I'll give your comment a heart as a thank you for staying with me until the end. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.